Have you ever felt exhausted to try to carry the world on your back? Already woke up with that feeling that you need to handle everything: work, accounts, children, future, but deep down, do you feel that you are doing it alone? The truth is that, without God in the center, every effort becomes tired. Psalm 127 gives us a powerful warning: if the Lord does not build the house, in vain those who build it. That is, without His presence, even our greatest achievements can be empty. But what if you started your days in a different way? And if, before you open your phone or answer messages, you open your heart to God? This video is an invitation to experience the transforming power of morning prayer based on Psalm 127. A prayer that goes beyond words. It strengthens your home, brings spiritual rest, protects the family, renews hope, and brings inner peace, even in the midst of the storms of life. Today, you may be trying to build something important: a home in harmony, a job with meaning, a life project that glorifies God. But the great key is to trust the Lord since the beginning of the day. By walking with me through this message, you will understand how to put God ahead of everything can change not only your day, but your destiny. Because it is not about doing more, but about doing it with purpose and divine presence. Starting the day with faith is like aligning the heart with heaven before facing the rush here on earth. Psalm 127 reminds us that, without God, every effort becomes empty agitation. It's like trying to build a homeless house. It seems that it's working at first, but soon it falls apart. Therefore, before any step, give control to the Lord. It is in this simple but powerful act that true strength is born. Most people start the day with their heads full and anxious heart. I already jump out of bed thinking of accounts, deadlines, and responsibilities. But there is a stark difference between living and guided living. When you start with a morning prayer, saying, "Lord, this day is yours," something changes inside you. You are no longer solely responsible for everything and will cooperate with divine direction. This does not mean that the challenges will disappear, but it means you will walk knowing that you are not alone. What's more, you don't have to prove anything to anyone. God already knows your effort, and He doesn't measure you for what you produce, but how much you trust. Faith is not passivity, it is spiritual activity. It is waking up and declaring, "I trust the Lord," even without seeing everything settled yet. Have you tried to start the day with a minute of silence? A minute, without asking for anything, just breathing deeply and saying, "God, I recognize you here." It may seem little, but it is like pressing the restraint button of the soul. And that's where spiritual rest begins, not when the problem is over, but when the heart settles into the certainty that God is in control. Sometimes we think faith is only for when everything goes wrong. But Psalm 127 shows us the opposite. Faith is the foundation of construction, not the repair of ruin. It is with her that a day of peace, I work with meaning, and right decisions begins. It is not about waiting for chaos to come to seek God. It is about calling Him right away at dawn, when everything is still silent. So the next time you wake up and feel the temptation to run to solve 1,000 things at once, stop, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and say, "Lord, I give this day in your hands." This simple act may not change the world outside immediately, but it certainly changes the world within you. And when the inside changes, the outside responds. Dawn is not just the beginning of another day, it is a sacred gift, a new chance to align your steps with the sky. When the light invades the room and the body awakens, it is as if God whispered, "I'm giving you another opportunity." Not just to accomplish tasks, but to live with purpose, to walk with meaning, to choose to trust Him again. Each morning brings with it an invitation to the sacred. While many see sunrise as a mere routine, those who live with faith know there is something spiritual in the restart. Psalm 127 teaches us that God is the true architect of life. So why start the day without consulting the Creator of the plans? Before running after your goals, it is wise to ask, "Lord, is this building yours?" Because only what He builds has a firm base. Have you noticed that the lightest days were not always the easiest, but the best started? When the first action of the day is a morning prayer, the rest fit better. Not because everything works automatically, but because your spirit calms down, your vision aligns, and what seemed heavy becomes possible. Starting the day with God is not spiritual luxury, it is a practical need. And do you know what is interesting? The world doesn't have to change for you to feel peace. Just remember who gave you that new day. Waking up is, by itself, a renewal of God's mercy. It's as if He said, let's try again, together. And this is not little. This is all. Who has this conscience begins the different day. And it ends also with more gratitude and less guilt. If you want to make this habit more real, create a small morning ritual. It doesn't have to be complex. A coffee in silence, a verse read. How about Psalm 127? A gratitude notebook with 3 reasons to praise. It is not about religiosity, but about presence. Divine presence changes the frequency of your day, and over time, changes the frequency of your life. So each morning is more than a fresh start, it's a reminder. A spiritual call to live with more conscience, more purpose, and more hope. The world may be agitated out there, but when you start with God, it's like saying, chaos today, I don't walk alone. And that certainty changes everything. There is a huge difference between working by obligation and working with mission. When God is present, even the simplest tasks become acts of faith. Wash the dishes, drive to work, take care of children, or resolve emails. Everything can be living prayer. This happens when you do what you need to do, but with your heart delivered to the Lord, recognizing that He is involved in every detail. Psalm 127 speaks directly about it. It will be useless to get you up at dawn, rest late, eat the pain of pain, for to His beloved He gives it while they sleep. It is not a critique of work, but a warning against effort without direction. Working with God is different from working for God. In the first, you walk with Him. In the second, you try to please you yourself. And that gets tired, exhausts, frustrates. When faith enters the work environment, everything changes. You start to see opportunities where you only saw pressure before. The routine is no longer weight and becomes a platform. A supermarket box, a day laborer, a teacher, an entrepreneur. Everyone can be kingdom agents. Just be aware that your work has spiritual value. It is not the title that makes something sacred. It is the intention of the heart. Want to see how it applies? Start by praying before office hours. It can be a simple phrase, God, it helps me serve with excellence today. Put a verse on your table or mobile, a reminder that you are there with purpose. And when the challenges arise, instead of murmuring, breathe and say, I know who's with me. This is a powerful way to keep the faith active while you act. It is important to remember that God does not expect perfection, but presence. He rejoices when He sees you trying to include the sacred in the ordinary. And gradually the people around you realize. Your way of dealing with difficulties changes. Your mood is infected. Your testimony speaks, even in silence. It is the light of Christ reflecting through His ordinary day. Therefore, stop separating the moment with God from real life. The whole lifetime can be a moment with Him. When work becomes an extension of your faith, you no longer have to escape the routine because it becomes fertile soil for daily miracles. And everything you do, even if no one sees, becomes a silent statement, Lord, this is for you. The routine itself is not an enemy of spirituality. The problem is living it on autopilot. But when God's love occupies the center of our actions, even the most common moments gain new shine. Changing the baby's diaper, preparing lunch, getting to bed, going out to work. Everything becomes a chance to show faith, care, and presence. What seemed repetitive becomes a scenario of silent transformation. We often expect for great spiritual moments, retreats, impactful cults, supernatural miracles. But God also acts on simplicity. It is in the constancy of the small acts, made with sincere heart, that the sky finds fertile soil. Jesus washed His disciples' feet, multiplied bread, ate with the excluded. That is, He moved among the ordinary, because He knew that true love manifests itself in everyday life. Want a practical example? When you cook lovingly to your family, that can be more than a meal, it can be an extension of divine care. When you hear with patience someone tired, without interrupting or judging, you are being a channel of inner peace. when it holds the hand of those who are sad and prayed, albeit softly. You are activating the supernatural in the middle of the routine. Transforming the routine is a process. Start by looking around more carefully. What you have done automatically can be resignified. A note of affection in the son's backpack. A good morning said with intention on the bus. A low praise while driving. They are gestures that, when made with consciousness, plant eternal seeds. And the best? They don't require extra time, just an awake heart. God's presence need not be invoked with complicated formulas. It manifests itself in the environment when you allow. A home with morning prayer, with words of blessing and respect, already carries the perfume of grace. This does not mean that there will be no difficult days, but even the difficult days will have the purpose. Because divine light is there, illuminating what was once repetition. Over time, you will realize living with God is not about great isolated events. It is about living every moment with purpose, even in the simplest things. The routine will no longer be seen as weight, but as a fertile field of love, faith, and growth. And when this happens, the ordinary turns into sacred, and the sacred transforms everything. A lot of people think rest is just stopping the body, but what about when the mind is still agitated? And when the heart does not find quiet, even in a silent place? Psalm 127 reminds us of a liberating truth: the rest that comes from God goes beyond the physical, He is spiritual. It is a rest that calms the soul, silences the fears, and brings peace even in the chaos. The world teaches us that productivity is everything. Sleeping little became a medal of honor. But the Bible says the opposite. To His beloved, He gives it while they sleep. This is no excuse for laziness. It is an invitation to trust the Lord. God works while you rest. And when we understand that, it begins to realize that anxiety is often overly disguised as a disguised control. To rest spiritually is to remember that the universe does not depend on our continuous effort, that there is a divine presence behind the scenes, taking care of what we cannot see. It is knowing how to stop, breathe, pray, and deliver. It sounds simple, but it is an internal revolution. Because when we trust, rest is no longer escape and becomes faith in action. A powerful habit to activate this rest is to practice the inner Saturday. Choose a moment of your day, it may be at night, to turn off your cell phone. Calm your mind and deliver everything into God's hands. Use this time to thank. Read a biblical passage like Psalm 127. Listen to a soft song, or just take a deep breath saying, I trust you. This space, small, renews more than many bad hours sleeping. And you see, this is also true for parents, mothers, autonomous workers, caregivers. Everyone who thinks they don't have time to rest. It is not about abandoning responsibilities, but of creating trusted breaks. An anxious heart, even with everything resolved, is still stuck. But a heart in spiritual rest has freedom, even in the middle of the rush. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, remember God does not expect you to be a robot. He created the rest, and He Himself rested. If the universe creator has stopped, why do you think you can't stop too? True rest is an act of faith, and it is in this rest that hope, clarity, and strength are renewed. The family is not any social construction, it is an original idea of God. Psalm 127 declares that children are inheritance of the Lord, and that changes everything. They are not just people under our care, but treasures entrusted by heaven. And when we see the family like this, everything gets a new meaning, from conversations at breakfast to day-to-day struggles. Each moment becomes an opportunity to plant eternal love. The rush of modern life has stolen something precious: the time with whom it really matters. But when you understand that your home is sacred territory, it begins to treat it as such. A family dinner becomes an altar. A conversation becomes a cure. A hug becomes spiritual protection. It's not about having the perfect home, but about making your home a place where the divine presence feels at home too. And don't think that this is only worth for those who have children. Family is where God decides to plant you. It can be your spouse, your parents, brothers, or even that friend who became soul brother. Where there is love, care, and prayer, there is a greater purpose going on. And this purpose, watered with faith, transforms relationships, even the injured, even the distant. God specializes in rebuilding homes. If you want to see this to manifest, start small. Choose a moment a day to bless your family with words. Say, I pray for you, or you are a gift from God in my life. They are simple phrases, but loaded with power. They build bridges where the silence had felt distances. And gradually this environment becomes fertile for inner healing and spiritual protection. It is also important to remember that the coexistence is not always easy, and that's fine. Divine love does not erase the difficulties, but gives us wisdom to face them. It is in the struggle for forgiveness, in the choice for empathy, that the house is being strengthened. And when the family is firm in the rock that is Christ, it resists storms. She may even swing, but it doesn't fall. Therefore, take care of your family as who takes care of a heavenly garden. With patience, with love, with prayer. Even if not everyone understands now, keep sowing. Because what is planted with faith and purpose flourish in God's time. And when this happens, the home becomes more than a physical place, it becomes a reflection of heaven on earth. There is something powerful to start the day with prayer, not as an obligation, but as a meeting. Prayer is much more than beautiful words, it is a living dialogue between heaven and the soul. When you get up and consecrate your home, your family, your plans, it is as if you are drawing an invisible circle of spiritual protection around everything you love. It is not about religiosity, but life with purpose. It is common to think that prayer needs to be long, formal, or full of rules. But God is not seeking perfection in words, He seeks sincerity in the heart. A simple phrase like, Lord, bless my home today, already moves the spiritual. Each gesture, every supplication, every gratitude released at the beginning of the day is like a seed. And seeds planted with faith do not return empty. Want to make this a real habit? Create a small altar in the heart of your routine. It can be at the kitchen table, on the porch, or even inside the car. Put a soft praise, read a verse, and pray with intention. Psalm 127 is a great starting point. By doing this every day, you will realize your home begins to carry a peaceful presence, direction. And the most beautiful? It's contagious. The child who sees you praying comes to trust more. The spouse that hears you intercedes begins to open. The house that was once just a place of passage becomes shelter of spiritual rest. Because when God is invited to dwell, He does not enter just to visit. It transforms the environment. He heals. It strengthens. He brings new hope every morning. Even in the most difficult days, and they will come, prayer is the thread that connects you to the source. When strength is missing, pray. When everything seems silent, pray. When the answer takes time, pray too. Prayer is not about getting things. It is about keeping the heart sensitive and firm, as if anchor in the invisible, but walks with confidence. In the end, morning prayer is not just a spiritual act, it is a statement of who you are and where your strength comes from. And the more you practice, the more your home, your mind, and your faith are renewed. Because prayer transforms the day, but mainly transforms you. And when you change, everything around it starts to change too. In times of uncertainty, a soul in peace is almost a miracle, but that is precisely what God offers. Psalm 127 does not only speak of effort or inheritance, but also of rest, trust, a living that is not based on fear. When you make the Lord the center of your home and routine, peace is no longer an unreachable goal and becomes a constant presence, like a soft light that does not go out, even when the winds blow hard. This peace does not depend on good news. It is not the absence of problems, but God's presence among them. It's the kind of serenity that allows you to say, everything is a mess outside, but here I trust. And that doesn't come from breathing techniques or motivational phrases. It comes from the certainty that you are being sustained by invisible but firm hands. But how to keep this peace alive? Cultivating small daily attitudes. Meditate on short verses in the morning, such as in peace I lie down, and then fall asleep. For only you, Lord, make me live safely. Psalm 4:8. Have a soft praise playlist for difficult times. Write in a notebook a short prayer whenever you feel anxious. These small gestures act as anchors. They do not prevent the storm, but prevent you from being taken by it. Do not underestimate the power of a mind in peace. She sees better, responds with more wisdom, and loves more lightly. And when this peace begins inside, it spreads, it hits family, friends, the environment. This is why the divine presence in your life is not a detail, it is the foundation that keeps everything up. The world may even swing, but those who are firm in God remain. Think of a candle lit in the darkness. Fragile? Yes, but illuminating the whole environment. This is the one who cultivates the peace that comes from above. Even with the surrounding chaos, this person is able to be shelter. And this does not come from diplomas, money, or control. It comes from intimacy with the Father, from a life that, day after day, chooses not to despair, but trust. Therefore, keep this truth in the heart when your soul is anchored in God. You can face any sea, not because it is strong, but because it is sustained. And it is this inner peace, born of faith and fed by prayer, which becomes its greatest treasure in good days and its secret force in difficult days. And now, I ask you, how have you started your days? Have you left God out of the construction of your routine? Or is it time to invite you to build everything from your thoughts to the environment of your home? Psalm 127 has shown us that it is not about doing more, but about doing it with God. And maybe, only perhaps, this video was the answer that your heart needed to meet direction. If your home has faced conflicts, if your mind is tired, or if you are feeling that life has lost your pace, maybe it's time to return to the center. To transform the routine into an altar, prayer into daily practice, and the family into sacred priority. What can you change early tomorrow? What habit can you start with faith? Remember, it is in the ordinary that God reveals the extraordinary. True change begins with a step of faith. And if this video has touched you in any way, don't keep it just for you. Share this message with someone you love. Spread the seed. Maybe it does not bloom in another heart too. And of course, if you want to continue receiving content like this that feed your faith, strengthen your family, and renew your hope, subscribe to the channel, enable notifications, and walk with us on this spiritual journey. Because together we are stronger. And with God, we are unshakable.